Clementine Barnabet was born sometime around 1894 in St. Martinsville, Louisiana. Little is known about her upbringing, but it's been reported that her father often abused his family. But what we do know is that Barnabet would grow up and end up taking the lives of 12 African American families with an axe in the dead of night. This is her story. Much of Barnabet's youth is a mystery to us, but it is believed that she was born sometime in 1894 and had a brother. Her family is noted for reported abuse, mostly by Barnabet's father, on the entire family. One thing we do know is that the family would eventually move to Lafayette sometime in 1909. The family was mostly quiet during this time, but between the years of 1911 through 1912, things would take a dark turn and help put the family on the map. It was during these 2 short years where 12 African American families were murdered in their homes in a number of towns alongside the Southern Pacific Railroad line that ran through Louisiana and Texas. The killings were notable as each occurred during the cover of darkness, and the murderer using an axe to brutally fracture the skulls of each of the family members. After a time, Raymond Barnabet, Clementine's father, would be arrested on suspicion of murdering the Andrus family. Information on the investigation is scarce, but Raymond was initially released as they did not have enough evidence to charge him for the murders. But only months later, Raymond would be rearrested, and after a short trial, he would be convicted for the murders. It would be noted that during his trial, both Clementine and his son would testify against their father. His children both claimed on the stand that they had witnessed their father coming home covered in blood and bragging about killing the family. For his part, Raymond was sent to jail, but his attorney would be able to win an appeal and get him a new trial. The details on why the appeal was approved is unknown, but we do know that Raymond was kept in jail pending the new trial. But it was while in jail, awaiting that new trial, that the Randall family of Lafayette was murdered in their home, much in the same way as those before them. Investigators were alerted to the fact that Clementine lived only a few blocks away from the murdered family. After looking at Clementine, investigators would name her as a suspect after finding blood on the fence latch of her home. This was enough to search her residence, and in doing so, they managed to find her bloody clothes inside her bedroom. The authorities would take Clementine and her brother into custody, pending a further investigation. But strangely enough, while the pair were in custody, the axe murders of African American families continued in the surrounding area. But while the murders continued for a time, Clementine would eventually confess to some 35 killings. During an interrogation, she highlighted her place within what she called the Church of Sacrifice. This was a church that was an offshoot of Christ's Holy Church, itself an offshoot of the Methodist Episcopal Church. But what makes this unique is that Clementine stated that a priestess within the Church of Sacrifice gave her and some of her friends what she called conjure bags. These conjure bags are a form of good luck charm often found in Hoodoo and could grant the recipient supernatural powers and make them invisible to police. Hoodoo and Voodoo are close cousins and are both practiced by oppressed peoples. But while Voodoo arose in Haiti, Hoodoo arose in Africa. Hoodoo practitioners practice it as a form of African folk magic that is mixed with the Roman Catholic faith. They oftentimes call on Catholic saints or characters from the Bible to aid in the creation of their spells. But what is interesting in the case is that Clementine's confession was problematic. While it was freely given, notes from the case indicate that her confession was at times very self-contradictory. At times, Clementine would openly admit to carrying out the murders on her own, while other times saying that she had help killing and often acted with others. The latter of which would make sense, as murders did seem to take place while she and her brother were both locked up in jail. But thanks in part to her own confession, Clementine would be sentenced to life in prison in October of 1912 at the Angola State Penitentiary. Later in 1913, Clementine would attempt to escape the facility, but would be captured in the process. The most interesting thing about this entire case comes later in August of 1923. It was then when Clementine was officially released from prison. You see, her life sentence had been overturned after Clementine had undergone an unspecified surgical operation and was deemed cured of her murderous ways. It should be made clear that while we do not know the procedure that Clementine underwent, we do know that it was not a frontal lobotomy, as that procedure would not be carried out, let alone known about, for another 10 years. After serving a little over 10 years in prison for the murders of 35 people, Clementine Barnabet was released from prison. Her whereabouts, post-release, are a mystery to this day. Thank you for watching this episode of Case Files. If you like the content we produced, please like, comment, and subscribe, and be sure to hit that notification bell to be alerted of new episodes when they release every week. Until next time, stay safe and never stop learning.